Alright guys, welcome to Hartford Mall in Bel Air, Maryland. Let's go inside and check it out. You guys heard that right. Welcome to Bel Air, Maryland, and welcome to the Hartford Mall. A truly and unique mall, and one of the first times I've been to a mall where I really did not know what to expect, as this particular mall is in kind of a quiet area right in the northern Maryland, right in the tippy part. Like, I have a friend that lives in Pennsylvania, and it's only about 30 minutes from his house. And there isn't too many people that have filmed this mall, so I really haven't seen too much from this mall. But let me tell you, for the first time really getting to see this, and obviously the first time being there, I was impressed. It is a smaller mall, as it only has two full-line anchor pads. Well, basically one now, because the one got mostly demolished, and we'll get to that in a second. But the mention for it being a small mall, it is definitely hanging in there, but it's having its fair share of struggles. So, on to the history of this mall. This mall opened in 1973 by the Mid-Atlantic Realty Trust. It featured a EJ Corvette and Montgomery Wards as its anchor stores. Now, among its original tenants were Walden Books, Friendly's Ice Cream, Horn and Horn, and a multi-screen cinema. Now, speaking of that Friendly's is still open, and we had dinner there, and it was good, and it was busy, really busy. And seeing as Friendly's is like one of my all-time, if not my all-time favorite restaurant, it being there is pretty cool. And as far as I know, I could be wrong by this, but as far as I know, this is the only Friendly's left to be fully inside of a mall. And it has no exterior access. You have to go into the mall to go there. Pretty cool, and as I said, it was really good, just like Friendly's always is. Now back to the history of this mall. The Corvettes there became Hustlers, then it became a Hex, and finally it became Macy's. Now another early tenant was F.W. Woolworth Company store in the center court. Sears did replace Montgomery Wards, as at one point when Montgomery Wards was going out, they sold a bunch of their buildings to Sears. I believe it was around 20. This happened to be one of them. So, the Harford Mall was purchased by CBL and Associates Company in 2003 for $71 million, which is just so hard to fathom that malls were really worth that, seeing as you see a lot of these malls, especially the dead ones, that are selling for single digits millions, and here we are at 71 million just 20 years ago. Kind of interesting. Now, Hochschild Cone, it was opened during the first expansion of the mall. The store opened in October 1977. This later became the original food court. Now, there isn't too much history of this mall throughout the 80s and the 90s, besides the anchor chain, as I mentioned. By the way, guys, you guys are staring at the closing Macy's. If you guys do want to see that, go back to my previous video where I gave an exclusive depth to that. But, back to the history. So, like I mentioned, there wasn't really a lot of history, but the next thing I really see was during the period of 2006 and 2007, the mall underwent an extensive renovation. The center court of the mall and the interior of the mall, they were remodeled. The exterior was also given a facelift. Now, the original indoor food court was entirely removed in favor of additional retail space. A new food court was constructed outside the mall. So that's unique. The first food court you really see outside of a mall. But it is kind of sad that there's no, traditional food court. You guys probably are noticing that and will throughout the video and wondering where it went. Well, it doesn't exist anymore, which is kind of sad. But as I mentioned, at least Friendly's is still there for my sake. Some of the restaurants that were included in the outdoor food court was Qdoba, if I said that right, Bonefish Grill, Five Guys, and a Red Robin. In addition, more upscale retailers such as Hollister, which that replaced the former KB Toys and later closed, and American Eagle, they were also added. Upscale retailers, kind of interesting. But anyway, in 2013, the mall lost longtime tenant Old Navy, which moved out into a shopping plaza, which sadly has happened too much. Now, in 2019, Payless Shoe Source announced plans to close its Hartford Mall location, as that's when the whole company ended up going belly up. As you guys know, they are completely gone. They tried to come back, but didn't work. But in the same month, Charlotte Russe announced it would be closing as part of a plan to close all of its other stores. Now, you guys know that they did come back, but not to this mall. Now there's a few other eateries located inside the mall besides the Friendly's and the restaurant called the Green Turtle, which never tried. and there is a pretzel twister. So at least there's a few food options. At least you won't go completely hungry. And at least with the Friendlies and the Green Turtle, you can get a full-on meal. Now, finally, in 2020, Sears, which is one of Hartford Mall's 2 anchor stores, finally closed. The Sears held on for a long time. It was one of the last stores to close in the state of Maryland. But obviously, eventually, Eddie's reign of terror, continued, and he shut down the store. And it's now demolished for a medical campus, kind of. Now, there's also a lot of shopping plazas across from the mall, which is trying to kill this mall. But I can say, it's not doing too bad. And there still is a lot of national chains here: Victoria's Secret, American Eagle, just to name a few. As I mentioned, there's the Friendlies. There are also the Bath and Body Works, as well as the Hallmark. But, of course, in 2025, it was announced that Macy's would be closing its private plan to close 66 locations in one of 2 in the state of Maryland. And it obviously closed on March 23rd, leaving this mall officially anchorless. So you may see that and may think, this mall doesn't have a future, it's going to close soon. And, I mean, it's possible. But my honest take on the mall is that I think it's still going to be around for a while. This area serves this relatively smaller area outside of the center Baltimore area. And as I mentioned before, there's still a lot of national chains here. Unfortunately, another one did also leave because the FYE left, as you guys probably saw throughout the video, or we'll see later on. But they've been struggling for years, so not all that surprising. And I also think it does help that you have this really cool martial arts place as well, or dance studio, whatever it was. You guys saw the end of the video with everybody lined up. So it helps that you have a mix of children's entertainment, your traditional national chains, food options. I think this mall is going to make it, at least for a couple more years, if not longer. And hopefully I can come back to this mall and give you guys an update video. But in any event, guys, I'm going to sign off at the beginning of that video. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the look here at the Hartford Mall in Bel Air, Maryland. If you guys do, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. With this channel, we travel all over. I got another big trip planned in 2 weeks I'm looking forward to bring you guys more videos. So stay tuned for that. But signing off for real this time, Alex Weinsheimer is out, live from Bel Air, Maryland. And I'll talk to you guys real soon. Bye-bye, guys.